There's no magic wand in a lesson. Like, I'm here to teach you just golf junkie. He's gonna be like, where am I? Is this outer space?
So
Exactly.
did you see any like juicy fights? Anything like really like interesting that people got into it about?
No one like punched each other, right? But there were some disagreements.
It is a really cool experience for golf nerds. I always said strong golfers are better golfers.
Do thinking and sports go very well together? Ball, target, go. I went up to the door of the influencer lounge and they kicked me out. They were like, hey, you can't be in here. You're not on the list.
My man, Justin Kraft, welcome back to the Lift Heavy Swing Fast podcast, or formerly when you were on last time, Shoot It Straight podcast, but welcome back to the show here.
Yeah, I like Lift Heavy Swing Fast better. I think it fits your brand. I think it rolls off the tongue pretty nicely. I like that better than Shoot It Straight.
Yeah, me too. And it streamlines everything because people will be looking us up and they couldn't find us because they didn't know Shoot It Straight. There's like Lift Heavy Swing Fast. We'll find you there. So hopefully the good nuggets you're going to give out today, people will be easy to find more of them.
Totally. And I like the thing behind you too. I need one of those signs. Yeah, that's cool.
I think you do, right? You have some cool new signs in your new space we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Yeah, I got some cool stuff, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, we've been working together for a couple of years, been knowing each other. You helped me with my swing and all that good stuff. But we finally got to meet in person at the PGA Show back in January in Orlando, which is absolutely insane.
Crazy place. And I didn't know I was going to see you.
Yeah.
Just grabbing my badge, right? And then you're like, Justin? And I look over, I go, that's Cody Wescott. No way. What are you doing here? So I don't know if you had been there or you were just getting your badge or what was going on.
Yeah, I just got my badge, was getting signed in. What did your badge say? Mine, unfortunately, said fitness influencer, which I felt like the biggest dork, like walking around like, you might as well kick me. I bet you had a much cooler title than influencer.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't. It was influencer.
No, mine did not say. Mine said director of instruction, Spring Hill Golf Club, which is what I do. So that's very interesting. I don't know what you have to do to get the influencer thing on your badge, but like I remember it wasn't this year because last year I went up to the door of the influencer lounge and they kicked me out. They were like, hey, you can't be in here. You're not on the list. I go, well, look at my
here's my credentials.
I got Instagram, and they were like, nah, it's not good enough. You got to sign up as a. So anyway, I don't know if you went to the influencer lounge because of your badge or if you. I mean, I'm sure they let you in.
Yeah, well, it was kind of far away from where I was hanging out. I mean, it was way over there, kind of by the stage where they had a Third Eye Blind. Yeah. Did you go see them?
I did not know.
They were pretty good.
Were they?
Yeah, I thought so. Which it was kind of my era, right? I think I'm a little bit older than you, so like like the late '90s was a little more my jam. But I went over there a couple times. All the snacks were already gone. I guess the influencers are hungry people. I think they had coffee, but I was already pretty highly caffeinated at that point. But I definitely did go check it out. But cool. I mean, the show itself is just absolutely insane. For those of you listening that have never been, it's really cool. If you're a golf nerd, they have everything you possibly could imagine, and then stuff you never would have imagined at the show. And it is just a great time. But I was there just to have fun and walk around. But you were there actually working or presenting and you were on. I was just having a good time.
You were hanging,
yeah. So tell us all about a little bit, kind of what that's like, what you do and things you talked about and all the fun stuff you did.
Yeah, so the PGA asked me to come, give a little bit of a presentation there. So I was lucky enough for them to want me to talk to people. But basically they asked, last time I was on the pod, we talked about online lessons, and since then, I mean, I think they're just growing considerably. Even more since we last talked. So they asked me to come, talk about how social media can influence the life of a golf instructor. And so I just kind of talked about my story of starting, posting probably very low quality videos on Instagram and how it's kind of snowballed into giving a ton of online lessons. And so just kind of sharing that a little bit. I was just one of 3 panel members. We had Abby Parsons, who's the head pro at Pinnacle Peak, and then Keith Bennett Golf, who he has like 200,000 followers. He has awesome content. So, I thought it was awesome because I learned some stuff from them as much as, I mean, if I brought any value, I hope I did, but to the panel. But it was cool to listen to them. Every PGA show, there's an event called Open Forum, which is for golf instructors to basically nerd out on golf instruction, and different instructors will present ideas and thoughts that are, trending in the industry. And then it's an open forum. So if someone disagrees, they voice that. And then you can there's no fist fighting, but like you kind of get to hear some really highly sought after golf instructors defend their beliefs and talk about what they would have done or would have done different and all that stuff. So always fun to do that. It runs from like 5 p.m. to midnight on Monday. So we're literally in there for hours talking about the nerdy golf instruction stuff. So anyway, I love doing that, and then always trying to stay on top of the game in terms of training aids, whether that be for the studio or Spring Hill, technology, trying to stay on the forefront of all that. And then, AI is making a push. It's going to be here before you know it in golf instruction. It already kind of is. So just always walking around trying to stay on top of things, in that part of the industry as well. So it's fun to walk around, but then, I had a few things I had to go put my thinking cap on a little bit for too.
Yeah, I mean, I walked around all the time. I think I got like 25,000 steps the first day I was there.
Huge.
It is just massive. But those are cool forums. I mean, I stopped and listened to multiple people talk, and I think I heard social media come up way more than I expected. People were talking about building their brand, building their coaching business, whatever
Yep,
it was. Because I mean, maybe that's mainly what it is there, right? Is brands. They're there to
totally.
promote. I mean, I can't believe how many apparel brands there are. That's what blows me away.
Oh, it's like, yeah, you could, I didn't really get over there. I kind of stay on the other half where all the golfy nerd stuff is. But dude, there's even like Certifresh cigars I saw. Like
Yeah.
there's anything we saw. I was walking around with the Spring Hill crew and we saw this beverage machine that you put the drink in and it's like for mixers and stuff, and it's a can, but it doesn't have a lid on it. You put the drink in and then you set it in the thing and it goes zzz, and it puts a can like a soda can lid on it, and you just take a drink out to the member like it's a soda. It's
It's
awesome.
crazy.
So
I
anyway,
mean,
there's a million things there.
so much cool stuff, and then so many, yeah, like forums, like where you guys are up there talking, educating people. Do you know what kind
Yep.
of people like come and watch those? Is it more like golf instructors, or like who really listens and
I
who
don't know.
asks
I think
questions? Do they?
you see a lot of badges where it says, head pro Somerset or something like that. So I think a lot of PGA pros, but then I think they let general public in as well. I will tell you the Monday night open forum that I was at, that's just golf instructors and magazine writers. That is just
Mhm.
people trying to understand the ins and outs of the trends in modern instruction and trying to figure out, like we're talking about force plates and forces on the handle and kinematic sequencing and 3D and all this stuff. Like the average just golf junkie, he's gonna be like, where am I? Is this outer space?
Yeah, those are words I know, but then that's about as far as it
Yeah,
goes. So did
exactly.
you see any like juicy fights? Anything like really like interesting that people got into it about?
Not really. There were a little bit at the end. It's really interesting. There's this debate about force plates, and we've only had them for so long, so it measures how a player puts force into the ground. And is that important, or is just kind of what you see on video important? And so there are some people very passionate about those topics, and they voiced their opinions. And no one like punched each other, right? But there were some disagreements, which is fine. I think that's the only way the industry like moves forward. The one piece of technology I was really excited about was we're able to measure a lot of stuff in golf, but we've never really, because we hold a grip between our hands, we haven't really been able to measure the force that each hand like kind of provides throughout the swing. And what do good players do? What do bad players do? What do people who slice it do? And it sounds like there's a company who's finally able to figure this out. I think it costs a fortune, but it's like a sensory wrap or a sensory grip, and it tells you exactly what your right hand is doing and your left hand is doing throughout the swing. So they're in the early stages, but I think they're already finding correlations between people who slice it, what their hands are doing, and then people that hook it, and then people that did it pretty straight. So, and like they didn't share any of that, but
Hmm.
they said there's for sure like player that slices it has a different, force when they squeeze it tight with their right hand versus when they squeeze it tight with their left hand, and they were starting to see correlations there. So I just think as this tech gets better, we should see golf instruction get better too.
So they're saying like basically at setup you're gripping at one pressure, at the top of your backswing, and
Yep,
then
totally.
transitions are different,
Yeah,
and
I
then
was like, I
impacts is
can't
all
remember the
different.
data, but I think they said, at the top of the backswing, 70% of the grip pressure for players that hook the ball comes from the left hand and only 30% from the right hand. So, and I don't know if that's accurate, but that was an example they gave. And then players that slice it, halfway back, they've got way more. They're holding it too tight with their right hand, and it's their left hand's not doing enough. Like whatever. But they were starting to find correlations there, and of course, it'll take them some time to be able to say, okay, this is for sure
Definitively,
what
like what is
happened.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool that they're on the path to that, I think.
See, that's a really interesting topic for me because obviously in the strength conditioning world, one thing we talk about is grip strength. Grip
Yes.
strength also has to do with like your long-term health, like how, when you get older, like how you're gonna be able to hold things, open up jars, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yep.
grip strength is really important. But people are like, well, why would I want to have a really strong grip when instructors have always said, don't death grip the golf club. So I think knowing exactly how much pressure, right, how hard you need to squeeze is very important because the more strength you have doesn't mean you have to use all of it. It means you have access to more.
Right.
So if for easy sake of numbers, let's say I can squeeze a golf club 100 pounds. I have no idea. And the best players in the world, also have a grip strength of 100 pounds. Not that I'm one of them, and let's say they grip the club at 60 pounds of pressure, right? That's only 60% of what they can do. So that's going to feel relatively light to them. But if someone
Right.
else only has 70 pounds of raw like grip pressure, now to hold a club at 60 pounds is going to really feel like you're squeezing hard.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
always something I've been fascinated about, and I've never really found the exact answer. And it sounds like something like that might
Yeah,
be the
I
answer.
completely agree with you. I think grip strength is a high correlator to club head speed. Like
Hmm.
you can't, the club weighs a lot if you're swinging at 110 or 115 or 120, right? So if you don't have the strength to support that, your brain just won't let you swing that fast.
Right.
So I don't know where the old adage, hold it real loose came from, but if you actually did that and kept it, that you'd lose the club if you swung fast enough to play decent golf. So yeah, you're right. That stuff's cool. And I love those little myths or those little, oh, hold it like a baby bird.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, okay, is he going to say the baby bird thing? That's exactly
Yeah, and
what
then
I've
pop
heard.
its head off if you're gonna hold it like that.
Pop its head off. And
Mhm.
there's also, the club does it's centripetal force, right? Is the club's
Yep,
moving around you, which
yep.
actually, even though the club doesn't weigh very much, the force of it
No
going
matter
around
the
you
force, yeah, the net force is a lot.
is a lot. And you have to, and so there's like a rowing right element to it.
Yep,
And I
of
think
course.
TPI did the study where they measured how much 1 rep max pressure you need as far as rowing when
Yep,
that club goes around you.
yep.
To if the club's going 120 miles an hour, I think it was something like 90 pounds
It's a
of rowing.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
was
that's
gonna
pretty
say
heavy.
I thought I had read the club weighed over 100 pounds if you swung it 110 mile an hour, 112 or something like that. Like that's how much it weighs at impact when you're swinging it that fast. So, dude, it takes some strength. You have to have some element of strength.
I always said strong golfers are better golfers.
Sure.
Um, but not to focus too much on strength where it
Yeah.
takes away from other things, which people do. They just all they care about is strength. It's like, well, there's other
Right.
things to worry
That's
about
not the
too.
only thing, but for sure helps. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, that was cool at the PGA show. I thought hopefully that stuff evolves a little bit and we learn from that.
so much cool stuff. I mean, I ended up spending. I have a buddy that started a company, so he was over in like the innovation area. It's called Upswing Golf. It's adjustable clubs for kids. So like as they get older,
Oh,
it's they're going
that's
to be huge.
awesome.
They're called Upswing. So
Yeah,
I'll look
check
back on this
that out.
podcast one day when they
Yeah.
blow up.
Yeah.
They won the most innovative award. They did some
Wow.
really yeah. And where they were, there was also this like Shark Tank panel up there.
I did
And
that. I did the grip thing. That was so awesome. Is it the
yeah,
chalk?
I
Well,
no,
I
there
saw
was
a Shark Tank one where it was like chalk on your hands that improved your like ability to grip a club.
yeah, I mean, there was all sorts of cool stuff, and they had like their little panel there. They did their pitch, and
Yeah.
basically it was like, "Yeah, I'd invest in your company," kind of thing. Like that sounds like a great idea. You guys are crushing it.
Cool.
And then other people, they'd be like, "I don't know." This one guy had a contraption. I think it attached to your chest and attached to the club, and it was a vest. Didn't look too complicated. I think that's what they were worried about. And then it was like 5 grand for one of these vests.
Whoa.
So the panel was saying that might be a little too expensive for this.
Right.
It was
Totally.
just great. I mean, for
Oh,
people
that's
out there, the show I believe is open to the public. You got to pay for tickets. They're not cheap, but it is a really cool experience for golf nerds for sure to
okay.
go
I
check
was
out.
talking about a product that was on Shark Tank was at the PGA show. It was like chalk something, chalkless, and they have you try and twist a bar, and you see how much, how many pounds you twist, whatever, and then they put the chalk
Ah,
in and you try it again, and it was kind of cool. It's really for helping your hands in the rain, I think,
okay.
um, or in sweaty environments, Oklahoma, Texas.
Is this people going gloveless too? The Lucas Glover,
Yeah,
the
I
Freddie
think so.
couples.
Yep,
Yeah. Is that a
exactly.
trend? Are people starting to do that more? They
I
think
don't
it's
know.
cool.
I can't. I've tried. I get blisters and stuff, but maybe that's because I'm a sissy. I don't know.
Well, you don't have to worry about that because you just opened an indoor studio, right? We don't have to
True.
worry about the humidity and the rain. So
Correct.
tell us about what that's like, because now you're a business owner. You opened a
Yeah.
storefront. Like
Yeah.
what is life like now?
Yeah, so I opened Crafty Golf Studio just a month ago, and boy, it was being a business owner was not something I'd ever had on my docket. I still don't really view it as that. I view it as I've created this facility that is designed to help people play better golf. As soon as they walk in the door, like it's impossible not to get better when you're in there. So we've got 3 TrackMan hitting bays with 3 video cameras that are available all the time. They record every swing of yours, and it shows up on. We've got 5 monitors in each bay, so you can see your impact location, your numbers, your ball flight, your 3D data, your video. You can see all of it at once. Okay. The other thing we did was we've got Sportsbox AI in each bay as well. So that's a markerless 3D motion measurement system. So it's going to tell you if you had 88 or 108 degrees of shoulder turn. It's going to tell you if you slid your pelvis 3.7 inches or 5.9 inches. And then the cool thing about all that, and there's a million other metrics, but the cool thing about that for my members at the studio is after you hit a ball, if you hit, assess my swing, it'll tell you up to 5 things you should be working on based on how you just swung the club. So it might say, oh, you're casting, work on not casting. It might say you slide too much, don't slide so much. Or it might say, you shift off the ball, but you don't shift back to your lead side in time. Work on that pressure shift in transition. So then those players can go into like a training mode and they can see that one data point, swing after swing after swing. And that's what I like, because if you just looked at all the info, you'd be like, this is too much. But if you knew, oh, I just need to work on not sliding. Perfect. Take me into training. Then they have that. So we also have a bunch of other technology, Hack Motion, the Wiz. They train your wrist angles and your tempo and your shallowing and all this stuff. And then a kiosk in there that has all of the drills I've ever posted on social media categorized by swing flaw. So if you're in there and you keep coming over the top, you can go to the kiosk, you can search for over the top, and it's going to show every video I've ever posted on how to not swing over the top. So tried my best to create an environment where it's pretty hard not to get better when you're in there. So big screens done by Sim Solutions Golf. They are awesome. If you're looking for an impact screen, they are massive and they're reversible. So you get double the life out of them, which is really cool. And they have a patent on that. So anyway, it was an awesome outcome. It was a very hard process to get everything how we wanted it to. So you're right. Business owner. That sounds terrible hearing that, but I guess you're right.
Well, business owner with a storefront too. I always, you're a business owner by owning your own coaching business. You have been for a while.
Sure. Yeah.
But when
Totally.
you open up something that's,
In a facility, right?
yeah, there's a lot more on the line there, right? Like,
Totally.
if no one signs up for more coaching from me, like I'm not out because I'm not paying rent on a facility
Right.
and paying for all these things that you have. And
Right.
obviously that sets you apart, because like I've been in a ton of simulator places. I've never, like a 5-iron, like they're a lot of fun.
Yes.
They're great.
They're
But
great.
there's not stuff in there that's going to help me really get better. I've got to kind of figure that out. Like I've got to look at the TrackMan and be like, oh, okay, well
Yeah, exactly.
my
And
path sucks. How do I fix that?
exactly. And that was my whole mission. It's like, okay, I'm not going to serve beer and pizza and wings. I'm not good at it and I don't want to do it. Right. Those
Right.
guys are good at that. Like you go play ping pong, throw darts, play some golf. Sounds like I like doing that too. There's nothing wrong with those places, but I'm targeting the people that are obsessed with golf improvement. And that's really what they're looking for. And they don't want to deal with the birthday party in the back and the whatever on the TVs and the darts going on and the ping pong and the food being brought to, like, they just want to come in and grind. And so most people show up, they put their headphones in and they know what the 3 things they're working on and they just go to work. And it's cool to see, because I've already got people saying, I just went out, the courses are starting to open. Guys are shooting career lows already. And they're like, I've never played this good. And I think it's because they get that immediate feedback after they hit a ball. They get video, they get numbers, they get 3D, they get wrist angle, like whatever it is. But that quick instant feedback, I think, is just so powerful.
I love the idea of the kiosk, because that's probably what I would use the most, because
Yeah.
that seems, because I have tried Sportsbox and I've messaged you about it. I was like,
Oh yeah, that's right. I
yeah,
forgot.
I was like, you need to help me with this. I don't know what I'm doing. There's a little too much there for the common person. I need
Totally.
you to help me
Yep.
figure out exactly what I need to do. But your
Yep.
kiosk there, I saw your video of you posting that, and that looks a lot easier to use. Click,
Yeah,
hey,
totally. Very,
I
very
early
easy.
I early extend. Let me click on this. I got to figure this
Yes.
out.
Bunch of videos on early extension. Yes. And then when anyone signs up to be like a practice member at my place, they do get tutorial videos on everything. So, hey, if you're going to use Sportsbox, here's how you use it. Here's, if you want to see all the numbers, here you go. But I would recommend just hitting this assessment button and then asking what it does, like, and then going into training mode and figuring out your one number you're going to work on for the day. So I do make sure people are educated before they get in there. But because like you said, there's a lot of info. And if you know what you're looking for, it's awesome. But if you don't, it can be very frustrating and overwhelming.
Yeah, because I met the sports box people at the PGA Show,
They're
and
awesome.
they hooked me up with like a free trial of
Yeah.
all of the one where you get all the data points, right?
Yeah.
And I started clicking on all of them, and it was just way too much for me. But I think
Yeah.
if you do just like the basic version, they only give you a
Yep.
few, which is
Yeah.
probably easier to bite off.
Totally. Like, how much are you turning and swaying? Like, those are the ones people understand the best. So a lot of times you start with those.
Yeah, that's what I should have went. I was like, oh, I'm gonna click on all of them, and then
What's this kinematic sequence thing?
yeah,
176 degrees per second? That's so good.
yeah, and then I'm sitting there thinking that it's telling me I was turning my hips too much. I'm like, am I? I don't know if that's ever been a problem of mine. Maybe I'm
Sure.
reading this incorrectly. So that's
Sure.
when I kind of put it away and I messaged you. I was like, can you help me with this thing?
Yes. Okay. So you'll have to send me that again so I can see. I would love for you to be someone who turns their hips too much. That would be awesome.
I must have been reading it incorrectly because I don't think I turn my hips too much.
Probably not.
Probably not. I do a lot of other things too much, and turning my hips, I don't think is one of them.
Right. Agreed. But yeah, Sportsbox is great. I love Sportsbox. I've been using it more and more in each lesson. And I don't, it's interesting. I think we as an industry, golf instructors, we got to figure this out a little bit. Do you assess the player's problem and say, you know what, I think, you know, the reason you're having issues is your club path is too far from the inside, and it looks like you might be sliding your pelvis a little bit too much. Let's look at the 3D and either deny or confirm that, and then go from there. Or is it you start with the 3D and you say, oh, I don't care what the golf ball is doing. You know, you're sliding your hips too much. Quit doing that.
Hmm.
I don't think that's the right way. I think you've got to kind of use it and say, boy, Cody, you know, you don't have a lot of depth to the hands at the top. I'm guessing we're low on hip turn here. Let's measure, let's see. And if that's in fact true, let's work on some hip turn stuff. I think that's probably the right way to do it. And then look, I don't actually care if you turn your hips 50 or 40 degrees. I just care that it doesn't need to be the perfect number. It just needs to be, oh, see, you went from 27 to 38. That's better. Or you went from 44 to 54. It just needs to trend the right way. You know what I mean? So the actual number itself isn't as important to me as how are you moving it in the right direction? Right.
Right.
So I think when you have that mindset, it's simpler, I guess.
When it probably gives you a way to assess more than just the critical problem, right? And what I mean by that is like with early extension, for example, very common
Yes,
issue, right?
totally.
Is it just moving the hips forward, or is it there's other things that are happening that the player then needs to early extend?
You just
Um,
nailed it. Yeah.
or else they would be in a lot of trouble, right? Like
Right. It's
if they're
like,
not getting shallow, they have to early extend or they're going to be too steep, right? So
right, exactly. You need to think about it like rarely does one thing happen in your swing in isolation to
mhm,
everything else, right? So if someone hits a ball and they put a line on their tush and they say, "Oh, look, you know, you moved off the line. Can't do that." Like it's probably a little deeper than that, right? So early extension, I think it gets a bad rap. There are good players that early extend, but it's a very common problem, can cause a lot of different inconsistencies, right? So what we're referring to is on the downswing, the pelvis slides towards the target. And as that happens, the chest of the golfer, the head or whatever, it moves back and away. And so the spine gets into a more vertical position. Now, what's cool is if you're steep, and like, let's say this is the golf club and this is your pelvis, or sorry, this is your posture. If you do early extend and you keep these relationships the same, it's really nice because the club shallows out, right? And
right.
you can swing less over the top. So players, oftentimes they'll get up to the top of the backswing. See if I can use my hand here. And they'll be steep with the club and they'll say, oh boy, this isn't going to work. And then they'll early extend to get the club kind of back on plane, right?
Right.
Now that does other things too. Like as you do that, it opens the club face. So you gotta be careful of that as well. But you just hit the nail on the head. So rarely, I would say, does early extension just happen in isolation. There's likely an element prior to that causing some of that, like not having enough hip turn and not having enough hand depth at the top that would cause you to be steep if you didn't early extend. So
Right.
I think it's important people understand that too. Like if you just had 3D and you're like, oh, look, your pelvis moved 3 inches towards the golf ball. Can't do that. Like,
Why? Why does it do it?
why? Right, exactly.
Right.
Why did it do that? And if you didn't do that, are you sure you'd play better? Because I think if you did that, if you did focus on that, you'd just be steeper into the ball and you'd be worse.
Right.
So that's where I think we've got to use it a little bit more as a complementary tool, not like the end all be all. But I think in terms of quantifying, it's awesome. Like I can say, wow, your path is getting better. And if we look at the 3D, your hips are staying back, but whatever it is. But I like being able to measure things and not just guess.
Yeah, and that could be the same with any part of the golf swing, right? Whether they
Totally.
are over the top, if they chicken wing, if they
Yep.
slide, or whatever it is. It's like, well, you're doing something, and I bet you would find it, because when I do assessments on people, sometimes the better golfers have more issues with their body, but they also come from like a history of playing a lot of sports or something. So I'm just like, okay, well, you have great eye hand coordination, so you do this one thing, but then you save it by doing, like for me, for example, like I think you told me this before. You're like, if you didn't early extend, you would be you'd be a 14 handicap instead of a 4.
Yes, you would.
So like good people with good eye hand coordination find a way to make it happen.
Yes.
But we also find ways to screw it up pretty good too. That's the problem.
Right.
Inconsistencies.
And that's the hardest part about golf instruction, in my opinion. Like if someone that's a 4 handicap comes in for a lesson, and I love this type of player that wants to get better, right? It's not very often they don't have things in a pretty functional spot. Like, okay, you don't turn your hips much, your hands get super high, and then that's a steepening element. And then you have a shallowing element where you early extend. So those two things offset. When you hit the ball well, goes pretty straight, doesn't it? Like that's a very good thing. What we can't do is just change one of those things, because if we all of a sudden turn better, but we still early extend, well, now we've got two shallowing elements. You're going to hit massive pushes and massive hooks. Or if we say, keep that butt back better, don't early extend, well, now you've got two steepening elements, and you're going to hit pulls and slices and big divots and all this stuff. So it's hard because most of the time you're taking someone that's functional and you're saying, hey, we're going to have to do things that offset a little bit here. The end goal is you're going to be more repeatable with your outcomes, but in the short term, it's going to be hard. Like you're going to have to grind on this a little bit, and you might see some weird contact and some weird ball flights and have some bad days. But knowing, I always try to get students to understand this. I could care less when you leave the lesson if you're capable of doing that move perfectly. I care more that you understand it, you know how to practice it, and you know what to look for when you're practicing it. Like, because there's no magic wand in a lesson. Like, I'm here to teach you what's going on, how you need to practice, and what to look for, and when we should follow back up again if we need to. So I think teaching players how to practice, that's why I built the studio, I guess. I want people to understand how to practice and what to look for when they do it.
So how do you combine practice with play? So like if someone's like really making a pretty big swing change, but they want to go play too. And we all know that when you go out and play, if you're just sitting there over the ball, thinking about all the things you're doing in your swing, like you would on the range or doing a drill, the outcome is usually pretty terrible. So how do you tell someone to go play and enjoy the game they love, or maybe even a tournament player or whatever, while also like not going back to their old patterns as much, or blending in what you're working with on the range?
Absolutely. My friend, I like to call him a friend, really high level instructor, James Siekman, said you could write a book on this question. And I think he did write a book on this question, but that's an excellent point. So I'll start with the question to your question. Do thinking and sports go very well together? Absolutely not. Right?
Yeah.
No one is out there performing at a high level thinking, right? They are very reactionary. So like I give the example all the time of Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters in basketball history. I'm fairly certain every day he wakes up, I don't have this on record, but we know for a fact he does some sort of like form shooting, right? He probably gets 2 feet from the hoop, and he probably does 5 minutes a day, ball, arm, shots, right? And then if you pull up the last Olympic Games, the gold medal game, he hits this turnaround 3 over 2 7-footers. And it looks like he's just chucking a can of soda to a teammate. Like, it does not look like his form shooting, right? So here's the point. He trains the heck out of his technique, but then when he gets into a game, it's ball, basket, go. Like, just let your brain, your instinct, your athletic intuition, let it take over, right? So here's how I would relate that to golf. If you're going to try and work on something in your swing, right? I like players to practice with almost two completely different mindsets. So if you're going to, I just think it's so hard to do multiple things really well at once. Our human brains, like we can do one thing pretty good, but doing two or three things is just hard. So if I said, Cody, hey, you're gonna have an hour of practice today. I'm gonna have you cut it into 30-minute segments. The first 30 minutes, I want you to spend 15 of that on your hip turn. And I want you to have video on every swing so you can understand if you did it right or not. The next 15 minutes, I want you to work on your early extension. Okay. So now we've got 15 minutes where we dedicated, okay, I'm gonna work on that technique, those mechanics that I need to improve on. At the same time you're doing those, I would beg you to hit terrible golf shots. I don't think it's possible for you to do those things and hit the ball really well. That's asking too much out of our brain. Okay. Now, as soon as that 30-minute mark hits, I would say grab a drink of water, change the type of music you're like, get yourself in a different mindset. And now it's time to turn the video cameras off. Okay. I would say, okay, from now on, I want you to hit a 7-iron, 172 yards, and I want you to hit it 8 steps right of the pin because there's water left. After you've completed that one time, I want you to hit a 9-iron from 145, and you can't miss short. There's water short. So try to hit it 148. Then I would want you to hit a driver where there's water down the right side and trees down the left. I want you. So now we're going through a bunch of performance-based training where we're not thinking about our mechanics. It is ball, target, go. And I would ask players, I promise if you can do this, you can start to become a very high performer, and you're not obsessed with your swing mechanics while you're out there. You think about it like your 401k. You put a little money in your 401k, you spent your 30 minutes on your technique. Now forget about it. It's invested. It's going to do its thing. Don't watch it. Now go out and play. So that's how I like to teach it. And that's where you see people that are able to work on their swing, but they don't get bogged down with all these swing thoughts. Now, I'm guilty of being out on the course and I need to hit a great shot, and I'm still thinking, or I guess aware is a better word, of what I should be doing in my swing. I think awareness and focus are different words. So like if I ask you to think about the first house you've ever lived in, all the listeners, okay? You're not there right now, but that's called awareness. You can picture it, right? So you can kind of picture and kind of play through your mind what you want your swing to be doing. You can make some rehearsal swings. But then when it's time to step up to the plate and hit the ball next to the hole, like that should probably be most of what we're thinking about, especially as the handicap gets lower.
Right. So like don't be frustrated that you're going to go out there and you're not going to, do exactly the swing, or you're not going to mess up what you've been working on, essentially.
No, you need to train it as much and as best as you can. And hopefully that's going to start to bleed into your normal swing when you're out there not thinking about it. That's the whole reason we train. Now, if you're out there playing this is where it can actually help transfer a little bit. If you're out there playing like a recreational round and there's no, like maybe you're with your buddies and you're playing a 2-man scramble or something like that, you can absolutely go out there and like put it to the test. Like, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to feel a little hip turn. I'm not going to worry so much about the target. I'm going to feel a little hip turn, feel like I don't really extend as much. And I'm going to see how the ball goes. And if you find success with that, you can carry that with you. But I like in tournament golf, dude, when the only thing that matters is where that ball ends up, that's where I want most of your focus. Of course, you can have a key or two that you're aware of during the round, but I don't want you obsessed with, oh, was that shallow or not? Like, who cares? We got to get the ball next to the hole.
Play golf, not golf swing. Is that what the saying is?
I think that's what you'd see a lot of high performers do. Yes.
Yeah. Just put the little white ball in the hole.
Yes. Good way to put it. See ball, like Steph Curry, just, ball basket, go. Like that's what he does.
I love that because, like when we were doing the drills and things like that, also I was injured when we were working together a lot. So I wasn't going out and playing anyways. I was just swinging in my backyard until I was in too much pain to keep going. But, I was like, man, what can I do if I go play? Is that going to mess me up? Because I know I'm going to go out there and just do some of my old, probably be a blend of like what we're doing and my old habits. Right.
Totally.
So,
like, for example, if you spent a week on shallowing the club, but you didn't really touch on early extension, if you go out there and play, you might see a little bit better hip turn, but you're still going to be early extending, and you might, it's a funny thing, right? But I think to make sure you don't have this frustration where like people will come to me and they'll say, I don't care how I play this year, I'm going to go through a swing change. I'm like, are you going to enjoy it that much if you do it that way? Like that might be tough. You might stink for a while. Like, do you want to do that? I don't think you have to. Like my good friend Luke Benoit, who's a director of instruction at Interlochen, has his PhD in motor learning. Wildly smart. He always gives this analogy. He always says, like, let's do this. Let's pretend you're in, your current home, but let's build your dream house. And your dream house is this swing where you shallow the club and you stay in posture and you rotate and all these things. You don't have to move in and use the dream house. You don't have to live there until there's a roof on it. Okay. So until you feel really good about it, you can play with this other swing, that's a little steep, a little early extended. You can go play with that one. But then once the roof is on this, dream house that you've been building, after you feel really good about it, then you can start to live in the dream house. You can start to use that swing. So I love that analogy because it kind of tells people, okay, I can work on this, and it doesn't really have to show up right away as long as I am working on it and getting better. At some point, it'll be comfortable enough that you're like, you know what? I'm going to go do those things today. I'm going to go turn my hips really well, and I'm not going to early extend, and I trust the ball's going to fly really straight because I've done it a lot.
Like that. I would equate that to in fitness when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to lose 50 pounds this year." I'm like, "Do you know how bad that's going to suck for a whole year of just dieting? That is really not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be fun. You're probably just going to end up not doing it altogether." So like, yeah, I would think if someone's, dead set on doing a swing change, unless they're super serious, they're going to get really frustrated with a month of just because it's going to turn into work, unless they're a tournament player, an aspiring PGA Tour player or something like that. It's going to feel a lot like work, and it's going to feel a lot less like playing golf and having fun, which is what happens when people want to diet for a year. They end up dieting really hard. It happens at the beginning of every new year. They diet really hard for 6 weeks, maybe just a month.
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. And then they're back to where they started. So it's like, okay, how about we lose a little bit of weight, we maintain it, then we lose some more, maintain it, and we kind of keep going. So I kind of feel like that's
more of a long-term growth type of
Right.
mindset, right? Like, let's just change habits, and let's do something that's sustainable. Let's not, freak out for a year, like you said, and try to make this, and then immediately, December 31st, go back to bad habits. I don't like that.
Yeah. So one thing that, and I'd love to kind of hear, what are some of the most common things that people have. But in my DMs, what comes in a lot is people ask me, how do I get a deeper, longer backswing? And they typically want to just say, hey, what torso mobility drills or torso rotation can you give me? And I think, when you start using sports box and things like that, you can actually see real numbers on how much people are turning their torso. But if someone's like struggling with getting a longer backswing, and I understand why they want a longer backswing, a longer runway gives you more time to generate speed. Like, totally understand that. Maybe it fixes some issues in their swing. Maybe they're allowed to get more shallow. That's a question for you. But do you think it's more just torso rotation, or people need to start assessing everything that's going on in the swing more than just one thing at a time?
It's funny, I was almost going to say you probably need to look lower down the chain where all this stuff is starting, right? So we talked a little bit about ground force here. This is where I think it could be even applicable. So I think the feet, maybe ankles, maybe mobility there, but then definitely the changing of knee flex so that the hips can rotate enough to support the shoulder rotation. Because look, I think even if you're super hypermobile, if you don't move your hips, I don't know how much someone can disassociate. Is it 45 degrees? Is it 60 degrees? I'm sure when those momentum and in transition, those numbers can change. But I think you probably got to look a little bit lower down the chain. So if someone wanted to lengthen their backswing, I mean, I'm sure you've seen a ton of drills with a band where you're trying to stretch the band out. But a lot of that also comes from thoracic extension. So if you're not making fun of anybody, but I call it old man posture or golf. When we set up to a golf ball, we're not standing straight up and down. We bend forward to lean over the ball, right? Well, that puts our spine in some amount of forward bend. Now, as we turn, we actually go from forward bend to extension a little bit, right? So we're not standing up. We're keeping our left side bend. But, that would be if I didn't do that, that would be turning like this. And you stay flexed forward and your chest stays really close to the ground. It doesn't ever extend. And that extension piece in the backswing of the thoracic spine is something that elevates that hand path and really elongates that hand path and gets the club to travel farther. So I would say, look, we got to see how is your spine moving in 3 dimensions. Sports box, very helpful for that. But on 2D camera, if you see your head moving miles this way, a lot of times that's a sign we probably need to point our chest up a little bit more. And so that's important. And I would say how you do that is important as well. So if you just try to fall into your toes, or you put all your weight on your left foot, maybe that's not the best way. I'm not saying you can't be successful doing that, but when we look at force plate stuff, Rory is a really good example because everyone can kind of picture Rory's before he moves the club back, he's got a little pressure shift to his right side. He builds pressure on that right side, and then he shoots it up the chain. So his right hip gets taller, his right shoulder moves back, and he starts this like extension move that really lengthens out the hand path and makes the club go back farther. So I would start looking at how is the spine moving in 3 dimensions, but then also you got to look at the lower body as well and say, well, are the ankles and knees and hips flexible enough to support that? Is there any amount of foot flare maybe that could help at setup? Are the knees changing flex? And then how's that right foot, or the trail foot, I should say, loading early and then pushing back up and away kind of as you shift pressure a little bit early and then start pushing up and away, get the right side higher, trail side higher later in the backswing. So I think all of those play a role. I don't get a lot of questions. I guess you're the fitness guy, so you probably get more of those. I get more questions like, hey, can you look at my swing? But
about ball flight, probably, right? Like, hey,
yeah, more ball flight stuff. More like someone sent me a thing the other day. It was TrackMan numbers, and everything about the science of the numbers should have pointed to the ball drawing, but it actually faded. So I didn't know the answer, but I said probably cracked ball.
I just watched this TPI video with Wyndham Clark. It's really cool video. They took him through a full assessment and all this stuff. And Greg Rose was changing his feet. Like, he was moving his stance around. He was flaring one out because he had a really bad, or he had a pretty immobile right ankle. So
Okay.
he was having trouble getting over to his left side. So they thought it was kind of perplexing to Greg Rose. He couldn't quite figure out. It took him a while to figure out exactly what the problem was.
Yeah.
But they had him moving his feet and also. How often do you have someone change their stance when you meet
all the time? So not just like, for example, easy math. If someone struggles to rotate on the backswing, I like to give them a little help. You can flare the toe out. You could even close the stance a little bit. I feel like that's maybe a little bit of a Band-Aid, but for your golfers that aren't going to practice all that much, I'm okay with a couple Band-Aids that help you have reasonable face, path, and contact. Like, that's fine. If you just want the ball to go a little straighter, we can do that. So, and then players that struggle to open up on the downswing, I might do the opposite. I might flare their lead foot. Or if someone over rotates, like if you really do turn your hips 60 degrees and that's too much, maybe we limit that a little bit. Maybe we say, okay, that foot's flared pretty good. Let's dial back a little bit. Let's square it back up. So I use that all the time. I think the more I can do for someone at setup where they don't have to think about what's going on in the swing, usually, the less I can interfere, the better. Usually.
Because my thought goes to, like, when I'm coaching someone on a squat or a deadlift or something like that, that's where I look at first, right? I'm like, okay, where are we setting our feet up? Because throughout the movement, that's not going to change. So like the golf swing, I mean, yeah, you do move your feet, but I'm thinking, how much time do you spend on a grip and like the feet? Because everything else in the golf swing can kind of change, but you're not going to re-grip your club and you're not going to adjust your stance mid-swing. So like, how much instruction like kind of goes into those two things that don't necessarily change in the swing?
For sure. Like, especially, I don't want to say with bad golfers, with higher handicap players, I mean, usually we spend a lot of time on the grip, because why is a player bad? Well, usually they can't hit the ground in the right spot. And then so that means a couple things, but most of the time they're not moving their pressure, their weight forward enough. And then also their club face is usually too open. And that's usually because their grip stinks. So I spend a lot of time, especially with beginners, trying to get the grip in a spot that will help them. And the other thing that's interesting is those two problems tend to go together. So now you got me talking about high handicap players, but let's talk about this cause and effect thing again. So if I'm a player who has a very open club face, coming through the ball and transferring my weight real nicely and getting my hands ahead of the golf ball to hit in front of the golf ball to compress it well, probably not a great idea. Because if I do that, the more I push the handle forward, the more open the club face gets. So if you already have the face open, why would you do that? Unless you want to stink, you wouldn't. So if the face is open, here's what you're going to do. You're going to leave your hands behind the ball and you're going to try and scoop the ball. And now you hit the ground 4 inches behind the ball, but at least the face is square. So when it's teed up in the rough, you can hit it straight. Or when it's on a tee, you can hit it straight. Or when it's a driver, you can kind of hit it straight. It might go really high and short. But this is what we've got to do. We've got to identify the root causes. So for most players, they don't have a very good grip. They've got the face set too open relative to their hands. They might start with their hands too far back, all these different things that make the face want to come through too open. If you can get the face in a better spot, a lot of times other things happen really nicely, like the weight transfer and the hands being head, all that other stuff. So sorry, tangent, not your question. But those are two common high handicap player issues I see.
For sure. I mean, that's what I love kind of talking about, because, I think it's been pretty popular now that people see Scotty Scheffler out there, raise his hands up, look at his grip.
Yeah.
Or does he actually uses
he has a trainer he uses every day. He puts that on. Like, if he's that, and I'll never forget the first PGA Tour event I ever went to. I was in high school. It was the John Deere Classic. I watched Stuart Sink hit a ball on hole 15 at TPC Deer Run. This dude, and Stuart Sink is like, I mean, he's got to be top, I don't know what, all time, but well-known, excellent player, long life on the tour, multiple wins. I don't know if he won any majors. I think he won.
He did. He won the British, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So major winner. This guy, he's waiting to hit. He took 10 seconds making sure his grip was right before he stepped into the shot. And I could never believe it. I'm like, this guy's just getting ready to hit a 3-wood into a 40-yard wide fairway. Why does he care this much? It shouldn't be this hard. Of course, I'm 16 and naive at the time. Dude took like 10 seconds, literally just putting his left-hand grip on the club. I couldn't believe it. I was watching. And It's like, okay, so you've got that. And then you've got now footage. Scotty Scheffler works with a molded grip every day. Okay. Maybe that's pretty important.
Something pretty, because you would think these guys can just roll out of bed middle of the night and grab a golf club and it'd be perfectly square and exactly how they want it.
And now that you say that, I saw, oh man, I forget the name. There was a player on Twitter or X, whatever, on social media the other day, and he said, he played poorly the week before. God, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was posting two videos side by side where one he's hitting it really good, the other one he was struggling and missing cuts. And he's like, can anyone see the difference? And, all the comments from regular golfers are like, oh, tempo, or, oh, you look more comfortable, like things that, whatever. He's like, no, I think he works with Sean Foley. He was like, my right-hand grip got too weak and we strengthened back up and I'm hitting it really good now. Like,
just that simple.
Okay. Like he's out there in the wild playing golf all the time. Of course, this isn't going to be the same every time. Are you kidding me? Like, as you get out into the high stress situations like that, you're going to revert back to old tendencies. You're inevitably human movement variability, right? We're just going to do things differently because we're humans, not robots. And so, the grip's pretty important.
Very important. And you got to have a good grip to hold on to the club, which is going to lead to, like, I think maybe my last question I got for you today. Best players in the world create a lot of speed. What do you see? And I kind of like just talking about high handicappers, because most people are high handicappers, right?
Yeah,
golf is hard. So how do people create speed, and what do you see? Maybe this is a better question. What do you see people do incorrectly that causes them to lose speed?
That's a really good question. So, I want to try and answer this in a smart way. In a 3D sense, I believe the highest correlator is not pelvis turn speed, shoulder. I think what you'd find is it's hand speed. How fast can someone move their hands? And that goes back to grip strength and all that other stuff. And then we talk a lot about accelerating the body, right? So I'd say there's a couple things there that are very important. Number one, when the club is swinging, boy, here you go. You got me started again, right? And we start down. When the club gets parallel to the ground on the downswing, so we're almost to impact, this part of the club needs to start moving up. And the way to do that is through the extension of the body, the straightening of the legs, all those things that, like deadlifts, right? Those are super important. That deadlifts help with. Because when I take this, if I just go like this, it doesn't really, that's a bad example. When I do this, the club just kind of hangs out. But if I do this, the club goes a lot farther. If I like pull up on this end, right?
Yeah. So you pull the handle up.
Faster. So it's parametric acceleration is the fancy word. But the more you can pull up on the handle through the ball, that makes the club head go down faster. So understanding that, and then all the things you get from deadlifting, like the extension of the legs, the extension of the spine, like all those things help the club head speed up. And then we talk a lot about the kinematic sequence, right? What no one talks about enough, in my opinion, is the deceleration sequence, right? So and I'm sure you're familiar with this, but it's like, how fast can you put the brakes on with the body and send the energy to the club head, right? So I give this example all the time. If you had a golf bag full of golf clubs, I think I saw someone do this, and you just tossed the whole bag, right? There wouldn't be a lot of force there, but if you tossed the bag and then immediately like yanked it back, all the stuff in here would go flying. Right. So there's some things there too.
Which is why when they tell you to do like the speed training, to do
Yes.
some opposite side swings and things like that, because
Yes.
it helps with deceleration.
Helps with deceleration. It helps with braking, which is extremely important for not just generating the force, but then getting the force out to the club head, right? You don't want to do all this work and get nothing out of it. So I think most players too, as a general statement for creating speed, they try to do it with their upper body. They don't do it with disassociation.
Right.
They don't do it with proper sequencing, and they don't do it with their hands and arms as much as they should. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. I'm sure if you asked 100 different instructors, you get 100 different answers on that. But I think a lot of people think and I love your thing because it's lift heavy, swing fast. So many people go, oh, I'm going to swing hard. And I'm like, hard means like over the top, big muscles. Like I want you swinging fast, like, fire that thing down with your arms and your hands and send all the energy. It's like whipping a towel down there. Right. So, I think if we could change the vocabulary a little bit too, to swing faster, that's more like striking a match,
Right.
not someone like coming over the top with the big muscles, if you will.
And again, to reference this TPI video I watched with Wyndham Clark, they had him hooked up to all the stuff where they have the vest and they have all the sensors and things like that. And Greg Rose told him, said, okay, find me a fairway. And Wyndham swung like at 85, 90% or something. And then he's like, okay, par 5, get me home in 2. Swung hard. His swing was fast, excuse me. So he swung fast. You just got done educating me on that. And I mean,
okay, you corrected it already.
Yeah. See, yeah, I love it. And it's in my name. Hard should never be something I say. But anyways, his swing was so much more efficient when he swung fast.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was pelvis towards the ball. And I don't know the exact, do they call it pelvic thrust? But anyways, the pelvis got 3 degrees closer to the ball. Is that like an accurate number?
Sure.
Versus I think it was like 1 when he swung faster.
Yeah.
So he became much more efficient as well.
Wow.
Being an athlete and just swinging faster. Yeah, it was wild. So Greg was like, swing fast, man.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try and baby it, I guess, huh? And I think we're learning more too from a strokes gain perspective. When someone tries to get better at driving the golf ball, there's a speed element and an accuracy element. So, it sounds like you are, just because like when you start to hit it farther, the triangle gets wider, right? Like you are going to hit it a little bit more crooked, but from a strokes gain perspective, if that's not causing you to miss that many more fairways or have that many more penalty strokes, then over the course of 100 holes, 1,000 holes, 10,000 holes, you're actually better off, even if you do miss a few more fairways. So I think there's some strokes gain data pointing to that as well. It's just, wouldn't you rather have someone be able to kick it into second gear like Wyndham can? Like, sure, maybe that 85% swing is all he uses when he goes to the US Open or the Masters, but to be able to have that option, like, I don't know. And like you just said, it's more efficient when he swings it fast anyway.
Yeah. I mean, people make fun of me when I'm out on the course and I swing hard and I slice one off the planet. I'm like, hey, I could swing 50% and still slice it. Like,
yes, you could.
I'm still going to make mistakes. Like
100%. That's like people that say, oh, I'm going to hit 3-wood all day because if I hit driver, I'm going to miss the fair. I'm like, a bad swing is just a bad swing, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because it's 3-wood, it's just going to go shorter. So maybe it doesn't reach the water, but it's still the same face path, club face contact, like all that stuff. So
it's not the club's fault.
No,
you're the one controlling it. You're the one that hit that.
I had a post on Instagram the other day. And it got a lot of like forwards to people or DMs or whatever. And it was, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need a driver lesson. Your pattern, your swing likely just kind of stinks. Loft can hide a lot of problems. Let's work on improving your pattern and your driver will go with it. And if you really want to hit the driver a ton in the lesson, you can. But understand that with a 9-iron, the ball it's easier to get a ball to go straight with a 9-iron. Sure, everyone loves their 9-iron more than it is a 3-wood or a driver. So let's get that out in the open as well. It's not just your driver. It is the fact that when there's more loft on the club, the ball has less curvature and it tends to start closer to the path. It also has a narrower triangle. It's not going to go 400, 300 yards, whatever, where there's more dispersion. So that's why you don't have a ton of big misses with your 9-iron. That's why. Not because your swing is different.
With ball going further, it has a bigger opportunity to get itself into trouble. Like, if you
1 degree offline is 150 is double at 300. So I think it's like 6 yards and 12 yards or 6.8 and something. So anyway, you just gotta know that and know that that's why fairways are 30 yards, not 10. Like, golf
Well,
designers get that.
and for me, speed has just actually helped me get out of trouble too. I don't think people think about that ever until you actually have it,
Oh,
because I play at my course that I was a member at last year had a ton of trees. And of course, when I hit a driver, I end up behind a tree. But sometimes, the tree's not, I'm not right behind the tree, and I may
oh,
only have 100 yards in, and the tree's not that tall. And if I'm not right up against the tree,
you get over it.
I have enough speed, I can launch it over that tree.
Absolutely.
And, the guys I was playing with were like, man, like, I get jealous of your speed, like not so much because how far you hit it off the tee, because sometimes you hit it all over the place. He's like, but I can't hit that shot right there. And he goes, and going underneath that tree is not really an
Oh,
option. He's like, you're
oh,
pitching out or you're going over it.
yep.
And so I think people need to
It
understand, like,
opens some windows. That reminds me, like, there's the famous shot Tiger hit in the dark from the fairway bunker over water to a hole way off on the right, like tucked over water. And I think he hit, like, it was dark out. He had a jacket on. It had to be 60 degrees or less. He had 212 from a fairway bunker to a back right pin. And I think it was in a playoff even. I don't remember. I think it was the Canadian Open or something. But anyway, that shot gets played over and over. And it's like you think about all these impressive shots you see on highlight reels. A lot of times those guys are recruiting some extra speed to make something special happen. So, like, if Tiger hits 4-iron from that bunker, first of all, it doesn't get high enough. It doesn't spin enough to stop in that little narrow section of the green. It probably bounces on the green, goes over, and he makes bogey. So he pulls out 6-iron, kicks it into third gear, hits it from the fairway bunker where he has to have very stable feet, right? And he hits a massive moonshot, carries 212 yards in the air to on the green and wins the playoff. And it's like, no one else in the world can do that because he has this incredible skill and he's got this gear where he can kick it in and he can just launch. I'm sure that ball had close to 2,000 RPMs more than a 4-iron would have, and close to it probably even apexed higher. So it just got way more stopping power. So you're right. It just opens the door for shot making if you have that type of speed.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, who doesn't want to, like, and it's just one of those things where you play like an athlete
Yeah.
and you can just hammer it sometimes and it's fun. I can't wait to
Yes.
get out and play now that we're talking about it.
Right.
So,
Same.
yeah. Well, with that said, like, I think we'll kind of wrap up here. Make sure everyone knows exactly where to find you, everything you offer. I know you're probably a little too busy now for more
No,
lessons, but
we're good.
with
We're good.
your studio, but tell us all about where everything is.
Yeah. So you can find me on Crafty Golf. I'm Crafty Golf on Instagram with a K. I respond to DMs. I check them all the time. Instagram updated so that it's hard to find them, but I always look for them. I always respond to DMs. You can also, if you're around the Minnesota area and you want a lesson, website is www.craftygolf.com. It's got different lesson information. It's got information about the studio, stuff like that. And then you can find me for online lessons on the Sneed app. It's like Sam Sneed. It's a little blue icon. Find it in the App Store, or you can go to my Instagram and it's in my bio, so you can find that there as well. But it's Crafty Golf with a K, and I'll respond if you send a DM. I'll definitely respond.
Yes, you will. I mean, you responded to me, and that's how we.
That's right.
You actually posted, what was it? I will fix your slice in 30 days, and that's how we met.
That's right. That is right.
Met.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Which you did, but then you're like, hey, we need to work on some other stuff too.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that just one thing after another. That probably, I don't have proof of this, but maybe you learned to early extend more to help the club come more from the inside. You could have. If
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it, then you might have, because I remember that program. And if anyone's interested in that, I still offer that. I just don't advertise it. So we can fix your slice. It's physics.
Fix everything.
I'll try to fix everything.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for coming, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Cody.